All right, so the U.S. government, they just moved $20 million in cryptocurrency. And it kind of has everyone wondering, like, what's up with that? What's the reason? What does it tell us about how they're thinking about crypto? That's exactly what we're diving into today. We've got two really interesting articles, one from Diario Bitcoin and another from investing.com, and they both cover this event, this transfer.
Yeah, you know what makes this even more interesting is that this cryptocurrency is actually connected to that big 2016 Bitfinex hack, one of the biggest crypto heists we've ever seen.
Over 110,000 Bitcoin just gone.
Yeah.
And the U.S. government got a hold of a good chunk of it.
Exactly. And that's what's kind of wild is that event basically turned the U.S. government into this big crypto holder, almost by accident. And now this $20 million transfer that we're talking about, Arkham Intelligence, they're the ones who spotted it first. It just shows that the government's not just holding on to this stuff. They're actually, doing things with it.
Okay, so let's break this down a bit. These articles mention that this $20 million was moved to a new wallet. But then that wallet was almost completely emptied out. There was like only $124 left. What's going on there?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? And the government's not really saying anything. The most likely answer is that they're just reorganizing their funds. But it is a little strange why move such a huge amount only to then basically empty out the wallet.
Yeah, that does seem odd. Is it possible they're trying to make it hard to follow where the money's going? Maybe for security.
Yeah, that could be it. They might be trying to keep things more secure, maybe moving the crypto between different platforms or wallets.
So we're seeing this $20 million transfer. But the thing is, the U.S. government has over $14 billion in crypto. That's a crazy amount of money. It makes them the biggest holder of cryptocurrency in the world. What does that mean for their influence on the market?
That's a really important point. It puts them in a very powerful position. I mean, they could potentially move markets if they wanted to. I mean, even manipulate things to their advantage. It makes you wonder if there's a conflict of interest there.
It's almost like they're accidentally becoming a central bank for crypto.
Yeah.
At least in terms of how much they're holding.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. It really shows how complicated this is. The government's both a regulator and a major player.
The articles also mentioned something else that's interesting. The government took money out of a MOV. That's a decentralized finance platform, or DeFi. Can you explain what DeFi is and why this is significant?
Sure. So DeFi, it refers to financial applications that are built on blockchain technology. The goal is to create a financial system that's more open and accessible. The fact that the government is even using a DeFi platform like Aave, it suggests that they're at least looking into these technologies.
So could this mean that the government is going to be more supportive of DeFi?
It's hard to say for sure, but it definitely makes you think. It's important to remember that this is all happening at a time when the whole crypto world is under a microscope. Regulators are really watching closely.
This recent transfer is just one piece of the puzzle. But to really understand what it means, we need to go back to 2016, back to that Bitfinex hack.
Oh, absolutely. That was a major turning point. Not just because of how much Bitcoin was stolen, but it exposed how vulnerable the crypto space can be. And it brought the whole issue of crypto crime to the forefront.
And the fact that the government actually recovered some of that stolen Bitcoin, that was a huge deal, right? It showed that law enforcement was starting to figure out this crypto world.
It was a major victory for law enforcement. It showed that they can track these stolen assets and get them back. And that sends a pretty strong message to anyone thinking about crypto crime.
So now we've got the government actively managing these assets that they seized. But they're not really saying anything about what they're doing. Why do you think they're being so secretive about their crypto strategy?
That's a good question. Maybe it's a national security thing. Or maybe they're still trying to figure things out themselves and they don't want to show their hand. But this lack of transparency, it creates a lot of uncertainty and speculation.
Right, and it makes it really hard for people to understand what the government's role is in this whole thing.
Yeah, transparency is so important for building trust, especially with something as potentially disruptive as cryptocurrency. What the government does or doesn't do could have a huge impact on the entire market. This whole thing with Aave, it really shows you how important DeFi is becoming. The idea is to completely change finance, get rid of the middleman, like banks.
So you're saying instead of going through a bank to get a loan or to invest, you could just do it directly on a blockchain platform. That's pretty crazy.
It is, and it's still early days for DeFi, but it has the potential to really shake things up. The fact that the government is even looking at DeFi, it tells you they're paying attention.
But like you said earlier, the whole crypto world is facing a lot of scrutiny right now. How do you think the government's own experience with crypto, especially with all these assets they seized, how is that going to affect how they approach regulation?
Well, it's almost like they've been forced to learn about crypto the hard way. They've had to deal with hacks and manage these volatile assets and figure out how to work with this decentralized technology.
Yeah.
All that experience is going to shape how they regulate things. Maybe it'll lead to policies that are more practical and make more sense.
Do you think they'll be more open to the decentralized nature of crypto? Or will they try to control it more?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough balancing act.
Yeah.
They want to encourage innovation, but also protect people. The way they've been acting so far shows they're still figuring it out. This whole thing of the transfer, using DeFi, but keeping it secret, it shows how much pressure they're under.
It's like they're testing the waters, but not ready to jump in.
Exactly. And it's not just the US. The articles mention that China and the UK, they also hold a lot of crypto. It seems like governments all over are starting to realize that crypto is a big deal.
So it's not just skepticism anymore. They're actually getting involved. What does it mean for the world when governments are holding all this crypto?
Well, it definitely adds a whole new layer of complexity. I mean, think about it. Governments could use these holdings to influence things like monetary policy, international trade, maybe even exert pressure on other countries.
Yeah, wow. So are we going to see countries competing or cooperating using crypto?
I mean, it's possible. Imagine sanctions being imposed using cryptocurrency or foreign aid being distributed through blockchain. It's a whole new world with a lot of unknowns.
That's kind of exciting and scary at the same time.
Right. It really highlights how powerful this technology is.
Speaking of powerful technology, let's go back to the Bitfinex hack for a second. That really put crypto crime on the map.
Definitely. It was a wake-up call for the entire crypto world. They realized they needed better security and law enforcement to deal with cybercrime in this space.
The government being able to seize those stolen Bitcoins.
Yeah.
That was a big win for them. But what happens to those assets now? Are they just sitting in some government wallet?
That's another thing that needs more transparency. The articles don't really say what happens to those assets long term. Are they holding them as some kind of backup? Are they selling them off? Who knows? The lack of information just leads to more guessing and uncertainty.
Yeah, it would be good to know if they have a plan for what to do with crypto they seize in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like this is only going to happen more as crypto gets more popular.
Absolutely. They need a clear and transparent system for managing these assets. That's important for keeping public trust and making sure the crypto ecosystem stays healthy.
It also makes you think about whether they could abuse that power. Could the government seize crypto from people they don't like, even if those people haven't actually done anything wrong?
Yeah, that's a legitimate concern. There's always a risk that governments will overreach when they get new powers. And the crypto space is no different. That's why we need clear laws and oversight to prevent abuse and protect people's rights.
This whole situation really shows why we need to have a serious conversation about cryptocurrency. It's not just some niche thing anymore. It's connected to government actions, global finance, maybe even geopolitics.
I agree completely. We need to move past the hype and speculation and have a real discussion about the risks and opportunities of crypto. The decisions we make now will have consequences for years to come.
So we've talked about this $20 million transfer and about governments holding all this crypto. But what about the future? What's next for the US government in cryptocurrency?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but there are a few possibilities. One is that the government keeps doing what they're doing, actively managing their crypto assets. Maybe they'll even start using it in our current financial systems.
You think we can see a future where the US dollar is backed by crypto, like some kind of digital gold standard?
That's an interesting idea. It would definitely be controversial. It would mean a huge change to monetary policy, and who knows what would happen to global markets. But it's not impossible.
What about regulations? How do you see the government changing how they regulate crypto?
So far, they've been cautious. They're trying things out with DeFi platforms like Aave, but they're not saying much about their plans. It seems like they're not sure what to do yet. Maybe there's even some disagreement within the government.
Right, so they want to support innovation, but also protect people.
Exactly. Finding that balance is going to be crucial. Too much regulation could stifle innovation, but too little could create chaos and risk.
And we talked about the global implications too. Could crypto become a weapon in international conflicts?
It's a real possibility. Because crypto is decentralized and doesn't have borders, it's hard to control, which means it could be used for illegal activities or even cyber attacks by governments.
Like a new kind of arms race, but with digital currency instead of weapons.
In a way, yeah. Like any powerful technology, crypto can be used for good or bad. The question is, how are governments and international organizations going to handle this new challenge?
It seems like the stakes are pretty high.
Definitely. The decisions made in the next few years are going to shape the future of finance and technology, and maybe even the balance of power in the world.
So for our listeners out there, what's the most important thing to remember as they try to understand this complex and changing world of crypto?
I'd say the main thing is cryptocurrency is not just a fad anymore. It's a powerful force that's changing the world, and its impact is only going to get bigger. So stay informed, think critically, and demand transparency from our leaders.
This whole thing with the $20 million transfer, it might seem small when you look at the bigger picture, but it shows us that the crypto revolution is happening, and the US government is right in the middle of it, whether they're ready or not.
Exactly. And as we go forward, the relationship between governments and cryptocurrency is something we all need to pay attention to. The decisions made today will have consequences for years to come for investors, consumers, businesses, everyone.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive. The future of crypto is uncertain,
Yeah.
but it's definitely going to be an interesting ride. Thanks for joining us.